Picture this. It's 2 in the morning in medieval Europe, and someone's pounding on your door like their life depends on it. Because, well, it probably does. You're not a doctor, you don't have fancy medical training, and your toolkit would fit in a small basket. But you're about to perform one of the most crucial jobs in human history, bringing new life into the world as a village midwife. Most people think medieval medicine was all leeches and prayers, but midwives were the real deal. These women had skills that would impress modern medical professionals, and they did it all with nothing but experience, intuition, and nerves of steel. We're talking about life and death situations handled by candlelight, with no backup plan except whatever wisdom got passed down from mother to daughter over countless generations. Tonight, we're stepping back over 500 years to witness something extraordinary. A single night in 1450 that shows just how incredible these forgotten heroes really were. Before we dive into this amazing story, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and drop a comment telling me what you found most surprising about medieval midwifery. Trust me, you're going to learn things that will completely change how you think about childbirth in the Middle Ages. The knock comes just after midnight, sharp and urgent against the wooden door. Our midwife, let's call her Agnes, doesn't hesitate. She's been doing this for 20 years, ever since her own mother taught her the craft. The messenger outside is breathless, probably a teenage boy who ran through the village streets in the dark. Third baby for the miller's wife. He pants, and it's coming fast. Agnes already knows what she needs. Her kit sits ready by the door. It always does. Inside that worn leather pouch lies everything she needs to guide a new soul into the world. Clean linen strips she boiled herself just yesterday. A small bottle of oil pressed from olives, precious and carefully rationed. A sharp knife with a bone handle, kept so clean it gleams even in candlelight. Ribbons for tying, soft cloths for swaddling, and a collection of herbs that took her years to learn how to use properly. But here's what's really fascinating about medieval midwives. They didn't just show up with supplies. They brought knowledge that had been tested through centuries of trial and error. Agnes knows which herbs ease pain without harming the baby. She can tell by touch alone how the child is positioned in the womb. She understands timing, breathing, and the delicate balance between helping and letting nature take its course. This wasn't guesswork or superstition. This was real medical skill developed through generations of women who had no choice but to figure out what worked. The miller's house sits at the edge of the village, and Agnes makes her way through narrow streets that smell of cooking fires and livestock. Medieval villages at night were darker than anything we can imagine today. No streetlights, no electric signs, just occasional flickering candles behind shuttered windows. But Agnes knows every stone, every puddle, every loose board that might trip an unwary traveller. She's walked these paths countless times, answering calls just like this one. When she arrives, the scene inside tells her everything she needs to know. The main room glows with firelight, and it's packed with women. The miller's mother-in-law tends the hearth, keeping the flames steady and bright. 2 neighbours have already arrived with armloads of clean cloth and pots for heating water. The miller himself hovers near the door, looking pale and useless, exactly like most men did during childbirth in 1450. But it's the woman in the centre of it all who captures Agnes's attention. Margaret, the miller's wife, sits on a low stool near the fire, her hands pressed against her belly. Even in the warm light, Agnes can see the tension in her face, the way she breathes through gritted teeth. This is her 3rd child, so she knows what's coming, but that doesn't make it any easier. Agnes sets her kit down carefully and washes her hands in the basin someone's already prepared. Medieval people weren't as dirty as movies suggest. They understood the importance of cleanliness, especially during childbirth. Agnes scrubs her hands and forearms with soap made from animal fat and ash, then dries them on a cloth that's been boiled and dried by the fire. Her first job is assessment, and she's got skills that would impress any modern nurse. She places her fingers against Margaret's wrist, counting the pulse. Too fast might mean fever or fear. Too slow could signal other problems. She watches how Margaret breathes, looking for signs of distress that go beyond normal labour pains. Then comes the most crucial part, using her hands to feel the baby's position through Margaret's belly. This is where medieval midwives really showed their expertise. With nothing but touch, Agnes can tell if the baby is head down or breech. She can feel if the child is too large for an easy delivery. She knows the difference between normal positioning and the kind of complications that could kill both mother and baby. Her hands move with practiced confidence, and Margaret relaxes slightly under her gentle examination. The news is good. The baby is positioned correctly, Margaret is strong and healthy, and everything suggests a normal delivery. But Agnes knows better than to assume anything will be easy. She's seen too many births that started normally and took dangerous turns. Her job now is to be ready for anything while helping Margaret through the long hours ahead. The women in the room fall into a rhythm that speaks of experience. The miller's sister keeps water heating over the fire, maintaining a steady supply of warm cloths. A neighbour arranges clean linens within easy reach. Another woman tends to Margaret directly, rubbing her back when the pains intensify and helping her walk around the room between contractions. This community approach wasn't just about having extra hands, it was about survival. In 1450, childbirth was genuinely dangerous. Women died regularly from complications that modern medicine handles easily. Babies died too, often from problems that could be prevented with proper care. The network of women surrounding Margaret represented generations of accumulated wisdom about keeping mothers and babies alive. Agnes takes charge of the medical aspects, while the other women provide emotional and practical support. She times Margaret's contractions using the church bell that rings every hour through the night. She knows exactly how long each pain should last and how much time should pass between them. When the contractions come too close together, she helps Margaret slow down her breathing. When they're too far apart, she encourages walking to help things progress. The oil in Agnes's kit isn't just for show. She uses it to massage Margaret's back and belly, easing the tension that builds during long labour. Medieval midwives understood something that modern medicine has rediscovered: the power of touch in managing pain and anxiety. Agnes's hands work steadily, providing comfort and checking constantly for changes that might signal problems. Hours pass with agonizing slowness. The fire crackles, sending shadows dancing across the walls. Outside, the village sleeps, while inside this one room, the most fundamental human drama plays out. Margaret walks when she can, rests when she must, and breathes through pain that would floor most people. Agnes stays close, offering encouragement, checking progress, and preparing for the moment when everything will change. As dawn approaches, something shifts in the room's atmosphere. The contractions intensify, coming faster and stronger. Margaret can no longer walk between them. She needs all her energy for the work ahead. Agnes recognizes the signs immediately. After 20 years of attending births, she knows when the real work is about to begin. The change happens gradually, then all at once. Agnes sees it in Margaret's eyes first, that distant look that comes when a woman turns inward, focusing entirely on the work her body needs to do. The chatter in the room dies down as everyone recognizes what's happening. This is the moment every birth builds toward, when months of waiting transform into urgent, immediate action. Agnes positions herself where she can see everything while staying out of Margaret's way. Medieval midwives understood something crucial that gets lost in modern hospital settings. Sometimes the best thing you can do is simply be present and ready. Margaret's body knows what it's doing. Thousands of years of evolution have prepared her for this moment. Agnes's job is to watch, support, and intervene only when necessary. The miller's mother-in-law dims some of the candles, creating a calmer atmosphere while still providing enough light for Agnes to work. Too much brightness can be overwhelming during the final stages of labour, but too little means missing crucial details that could spell the difference between life and death. The remaining flames cast a warm, steady glow that makes the room feel safe and intimate rather than clinical. Margaret grips the hands of the women beside her as another contraction builds. Agnes can see the change in her posture, the way her entire body prepares for what's coming. Medieval women didn't have pain medication, but they had something else. Complete trust in the process and the women guiding them through it. Margaret knows Agnes has done this hundreds of times before. She knows the other women in the room have either been through it themselves or helped others through it. The support system surrounding Margaret would make modern birthing advocates weep with envy. Every woman present understands her role without being told. When Margaret needs to change positions, strong arms help her move. When she needs something to grip during contractions, hands appear immediately. When she needs encouragement, voices murmur reassurances that have been passed down through generations of mothers. Agnes watches Margaret's face carefully during each contraction. She's looking for signs that the baby is moving down, that progress is being made. Too much strain without advancement could mean problems. But Margaret's expressions tell Agnes everything she needs to know. This is hard work, but it's normal hard work, the kind of effort that brings new life into the world. The rhythm of labour intensifies as the night wears on. Contractions that once came every few minutes now arrive with barely any rest between them. Margaret can no longer talk during them. All her energy goes into breathing and pushing when her body tells her to. Agnes recognises this stage immediately. In her experience, first-time mothers might labour like this for hours, but Margaret has done this before. Her body remembers. One of the most remarkable things about medieval midwives was their ability to read the subtle signs that indicated how labour was progressing. Agnes doesn't need modern monitoring equipment to know that Margaret is doing well. She can tell from the sound of her breathing, the colour of her skin, and the way she moves between contractions. These were skills developed through necessity. When you're the only medical professional for miles around, you learn to spot problems before they become emergencies. The other women in the room adjust their activities to match the changing pace. Less talking now, more focused attention on Margaret's immediate needs. The miller's sister keeps fresh cloths warm by the fire. A neighbour arranges the supplies Agnes will need within arm's reach. Another woman helps Margaret into the position that feels most comfortable, not flat on her back like we might expect, but upright and supported, letting gravity help with the process. Medieval birthing positions were actually more varied and practical than what became standard in later centuries. Women squatted, knelt, or leaned against supportive furniture. They moved around until they found what worked best for their bodies. Agnes encourages Margaret to follow her instincts, knowing that a woman in labour often knows exactly what position will help her baby be born. The intensity in the room builds as Margaret's body takes over completely. Her breathing becomes more focused, more purposeful. Agnes can see the change in her posture that signals the baby is moving down. This is the moment that separates experienced midwives from novices, recognizing when to step in and when to step back. Agnes positions herself carefully, ready to receive the baby but not rushing the process. Medieval midwives understood that babies come in their own time, and trying to hurry things often caused more problems than it solved. She checks that everything she needs is within reach: clean cloths, the knife for cutting the cord, ribbons for tying it, and warm water for cleaning the baby once it arrives. The final stage of labour is often the most intense, but also the shortest. Margaret's contractions now come with an urgency that leaves no doubt about what's happening. Agnes can see the first signs that the baby is almost here. Changes in Margaret's breathing and posture that indicate the child is moving through the birth canal. The room falls completely silent except for Margaret's breathing and the soft crackling of the fire. Everyone present understands that this is the crucial moment. Agnes's hands are steady and ready, her eyes focused entirely on Margaret. 20 years of experience have taught her to stay calm no matter what happens, to project confidence even when things get complicated. Margaret bears down with a determination that would inspire armies. The women supporting her murmur encouragement, but their voices are soft now, respectful of the enormous work happening before them. Agnes watches and waits, her skilled hands ready to guide the baby safely into the world. This is the moment when all her knowledge, all her experience, and all her preparation come together. The baby's head appears first, just as Agnes expected from her earlier examination. She supports it gently, making sure the cord isn't wrapped around the neck, a complication she's dealt with many times before. Her touch is sure and confident, guiding without forcing, helping without interfering with the natural process that's been happening for as long as humans have existed. With one final push that seems to draw strength from somewhere beyond exhaustion, Margaret delivers her child into Agnes's waiting hands. The baby slides into the world with that slippery rush that Agnes has witnessed hundreds of times, but which never fails to amaze her. In the dim candlelight, she can see immediately that this is a healthy child, good colour, good size, and already showing signs of the indignation that comes with being suddenly thrust from a warm, dark world into bright, cold air. Agnes works quickly but calmly. Her first job is clearing the baby's mouth and nose, using a twist of clean cloth to remove any fluid that might interfere with breathing. This is crucial work that must be done within moments of birth. She's seen too many babies struggle because this simple step was delayed or done incorrectly. Her movements are practiced and sure. She knows exactly how to clear the airway without causing harm. The baby's first cry cuts through the silence like a church bell announcing salvation. It's thin and reedy, but strong enough to make everyone in the room exhale with relief. Agnes smiles for the first time since she arrived. That cry tells her the baby's lungs are working properly, that this new life is ready to take on the world. The women surrounding Margaret begin to weep and laugh simultaneously, releasing hours of tension in a flood of emotion. But Agnes isn't finished yet. While the family celebrates, she has critical work to complete. The umbilical cord still connects mother and child, pulsing with the final exchanges of blood and oxygen. Medieval midwives knew to wait for this pulsing to stop naturally before cutting the cord, a practice that modern medicine has rediscovered as beneficial for the baby's health. Agnes feels the cord carefully, waiting for the pulsing to cease. When it does, she ties it off with one of the ribbons from her kit, positioning the knot exactly where generations of midwives taught her to place it. Too close to the baby's belly, and there's risk of infection. Too far away, and healing becomes complicated. The knife she uses to cut the cord is sharp and clean. She sharpened it herself just yesterday, knowing that dull blades cause ragged cuts that don't heal properly. The baby, now freed from the cord that sustained it for 9 months, lets out another cry that brings fresh tears to Margaret's eyes. Agnes quickly wraps the child in warm cloths that have been waiting by the fire. Medieval swaddling wasn't just about keeping babies warm. It was a carefully developed technique that helped newborns feel secure after the shock of birth. Agnes's hands move with practiced efficiency, wrapping the baby snugly but not too tightly, leaving room for breathing while providing the comforting pressure that mimics the womb. While Agnes tends to the baby, Margaret's body continues the work of birth. The afterbirth must still be delivered, and this stage can be just as dangerous as the birth itself. Medieval midwives understood that rushing this process could cause dangerous bleeding or leave behind tissue that would cause infection later. Agnes watches Margaret carefully, timing the contractions that will expel the placenta naturally. The placenta arrives with far less drama than the baby, but Agnes examines it just as carefully. She's looking for signs that it's complete. Missing pieces left inside, Margaret could cause serious problems in the days ahead. Her trained eye can spot irregularities that might escape notice, and she checks every surface to ensure nothing has been left behind. This examination is another skill that separates experienced midwives from amateurs. Agnes helps Margaret into a more comfortable position and begins the process of checking for tears or other injuries from the birth. Using clean cloths and warm water, she examines Margaret thoroughly, looking for any damage that needs attention. Medieval midwives were skilled at stitching tears when necessary, using techniques that were surprisingly sophisticated for their time. In Margaret's case, everything looks good. The birth was clean and uncomplicated. The bleeding that follows birth is normal, but Agnes monitors it carefully. Too much bleeding can quickly become life-threatening, and she's prepared to take action if necessary. She has herbs in her kit that can help slow excessive bleeding, and she knows pressure techniques that can buy time while the herbs take effect. But Margaret is bleeding normally, enough to show her body is cleaning itself, not enough to cause alarm. Agnes binds Margaret's belly with strips of clean linen, providing support for muscles that have been stretched beyond their normal limits. This binding serves multiple purposes. It helps Margaret feel more secure, provides physical support for healing tissues, and helps prevent some of the complications that can arise after birth. The technique for binding is precise, requiring just the right amount of pressure in exactly the right places. The baby, meanwhile, has been passed among the women in the room, each one marveling at the tiny fingers and perfect features. But Agnes knows it's time for the child's first feeding. She helps position the baby at Margaret's breast, showing her how to encourage the newborn to latch on properly. Even though this is Margaret's third child, each baby is different, and Agnes's experience helps ensure this crucial first feeding goes smoothly. The sight of mother and child together, the baby nursing contentedly while Margaret gazes down with exhausted but radiant joy, never fails to move Agnes. This is why she became a midwife, not for the money, which is modest, or for the social status, which is limited, but for moments like these. For the privilege of being present when new life enters the world, of using her skills to ensure that both mother and baby survive what is, even under the best circumstances, a dangerous process. The other women in the room begin cleaning up, washing blood-stained cloths and banking the fire for the long day ahead. The immediate crisis is over, but Agnes knows her work isn't finished yet. The next few hours will be crucial for both Margaret and the baby. She needs to monitor Margaret for signs of fever or excessive bleeding, and she needs to ensure the baby continues nursing properly. Agnes shows Margaret's mother-in-law how to prepare the special broths that new mothers need to rebuild their strength. She explains which herbs to steep for tea that will help Margaret's milk come in properly and ease the cramping that follows birth. These aren't superstitions or old wives' tales. They're remedies that have been tested through generations of use, refined and passed down by midwives who understood the healing properties of plants. The baby needs attention too. Agnes checks that the cord is healing properly and shows the women how to keep it clean and dry. She examines the baby's eyes, mouth, and body, looking for any signs of problems that might have been missed in the excitement following birth. Everything looks perfect. This is a healthy, strong child who should thrive if given proper care. As dawn light begins to filter through the shuttered windows, Agnes makes preparations to leave. But first, she takes out a small wax tablet and scratches a brief record of the night's events. Time of birth, condition of mother and child, any complications that arose. These notes help her track patterns and remember details that might be important later. Medieval record-keeping wasn't sophisticated, but experienced midwives understood the value of documentation. Agnes promises to return by evening to check on Margaret and the baby. This follow-up care is crucial. Many complications don't appear immediately after birth, but develop over the first few days. She'll continue visiting daily for the first week, then periodically for the first month. Her relationship with this family doesn't end when the baby is born. It continues through the critical early weeks when both mother and child are most vulnerable. Before she leaves, Agnes takes aside Margaret's husband, who has been hovering nervously in the background all night. She gives him specific instructions about caring for his wife and new child, how to keep Margaret comfortable, what signs might indicate problems, when to call for help. She explains the importance of keeping the room warm but not stuffy, of ensuring Margaret gets proper nutrition, and of limiting visitors who might bring illness into the house. The miller nods seriously as Agnes speaks, understanding that his wife's recovery depends partly on his following these instructions carefully. Medieval men might not have participated directly in childbirth, but they had important roles to play in the aftermath. Agnes has seen too many new mothers suffer because their husbands didn't understand the importance of proper care during recovery. Agnes gathers her kit, now depleted of several supplies that she'll need to replenish before the next call comes. The clean cloths are gone, used for various purposes throughout the night. Her oil supply is lower, some of it used for massaging Margaret during labour. Several herbs from her collection have been prepared as teas or poultices. These materials represent not just supplies, but investments. Agnes must carefully manage her resources to ensure she's always ready for the next emergency. The sun is fully up now, painting the village streets with golden light as Agnes makes her way home. Other people are beginning to stir, starting their daily routines of tending animals and preparing breakfast. Life in the village continues its normal rhythm, but Agnes knows that for one family, everything has changed. A new person has entered the world, and her skills helped ensure that both mother and child survived to see this new day. Walking through the familiar streets, Agnes reflects on the night's work. Every birth is different, presenting its own challenges and rewards. Some are quick and easy, others long and difficult. Some end in joy, others in heartbreak. But each one teaches her something new, adds to the vast store of knowledge that makes her valuable to her community. In a world where formal medical training is limited to university-educated men who rarely deal with childbirth, midwives like Agnes are the real experts in bringing new life safely into the world. The techniques she uses, the knowledge she possesses, and the skills she's developed aren't written in any textbook. They exist in her hands, her eyes, her intuition developed through years of experience. This knowledge will be passed on to other women, just as it was passed to her by the midwives who trained her. It's a tradition stretching back through countless generations of women who understood that bringing new life into the world safely requires more than luck or prayer. It requires skill, knowledge, and the kind of calm competence that comes only through experience. Back at her cottage, Agnes hangs her cloak on the wooden peg by the door and sets her kit on the worn oak table. The familiar routine of checking her supplies has become second nature after 2 decades of practice. She counts the remaining clean cloths, only 3 left, which means a trip to the market for more linen. The oil bottle sits nearly empty, its contents used up during the long night of massaging Margaret's aching back. Her herb collection needs replenishing too, especially the dried raspberry leaves that help ease labour pains. But Agnes knows her work isn't just about maintaining supplies. It's about maintaining relationships throughout the village. The miller's family will remember her kindness during their time of need. They'll recommend her to other families when their daughters or daughters-in-law face childbirth. Word of mouth is everything in a medieval village. Your reputation travels faster than gossip at market day, and both can make or break your livelihood. Agnes begins the process of cleaning and preparing her tools for the next call. The cord knife gets special attention, scrubbed clean with soap and then sharpened on the whetstone. She keeps specifically for this purpose. A dull blade is worse than useless during an emergency. It can cause jagged cuts that heal poorly or become infected. She tests the edge against a piece of thread, nodding with satisfaction when it slices cleanly through. The real challenge isn't just being ready for normal births like Margaret's. Agnes has to prepare for complications that can turn a routine delivery into a life or death emergency. Babies that come early, mothers who bleed too heavily, children positioned wrong in the womb. These situations require split-second decisions based on experience that can't be learned from books. She remembers the birth 3 months ago where the baby's cord wrapped around its neck not once but twice. Her hands worked by instinct, feeling for the cord and carefully loosening it before the baby could be strangled by its own lifeline. The mother never knew how close they came to tragedy. Agnes made it look routine, just another part of the process. That's what 20 years of experience teaches you. How to handle emergencies without panic. How to project calm when everything inside you is screaming. Agnes pulls out her record-keeping materials and adds Margaret's birth to her growing collection of notes. These scratched observations on wax tablets might not look like much, but they represent a treasure trove of medical knowledge. She tracks which herbs work best for different situations, which techniques help babies in difficult positions, which warning signs predict dangerous complications. This isn't formal medical education. It's something far more valuable. Real-world experience distilled into practical wisdom. The entries tell stories that would make modern medical students pale. The merchant's wife who laboured for 2 full days before delivering twins. The baker's daughter whose baby came so fast there was barely time to wash hands. The village elder's granddaughter who hemorrhaged after birth until Agnes used a combination of pressure and herbal remedies to stop the bleeding. Each entry represents hours of intense work, lives saved, families kept together, ept. But Agnes also keeps track of the losses. Medieval midwifery wasn't always successful, despite all the skill and experience in the world. Sometimes babies were born too early to survive. Sometimes mothers developed complications that no amount of knowledge could overcome. These failures weigh heavily on Agnes, but they also teach her. Each tragedy helps her recognize warning signs earlier, try different approaches, push harder to find solutions that might save the next mother and child. The sound of church bells reminds Agnes that the village is fully awake now. Soon people will be moving through the streets, heading to market or tending their daily business. Some will ask about Margaret's delivery. Good news travels fast in small communities, and the successful birth of a healthy child is always cause for celebration. Agnes will smile and nod, accepting congratulations while already thinking about what might come next, because there's always a next call coming. Village life in 1450 means families having many children, hoping enough will survive to help with work and care for aging parents. Agnes might deliver 20 or 30 babies in a busy year, each one presenting its own challenges. Some births happen during blizzards that make travel dangerous. Others come during harvest time when every hand is needed in the fields. A few arrive during plague years when visiting any household means risking infection. The seasonal patterns of birth keep Agnes constantly busy. Spring brings babies conceived during the cold months when couples spent long nights huddled together for warmth. Summer deliveries often happen during the hottest weather, making labour even more challenging for mothers already stressed by heat. Autumn births compete with harvest activities. Agnes has delivered babies while grain waited unharvested in nearby fields. Winter presents the greatest challenges, with icy roads making travel treacherous, and cold houses requiring extra effort to keep newborns warm. Agnes's story reminds us that medieval midwives were far more than simple healers. They were skilled medical professionals who saved countless lives with nothing but knowledge passed down through generations. These remarkable women mastered techniques that modern medicine has only recently rediscovered, proving that sometimes the oldest wisdom is also the most valuable. The next time you hear about childbirth in the Middle Ages, remember Agnes and the thousands of midwives like her who brought new life safely into the world, one midnight call at a time.